Can you hear me okay?
I can.
All right. Are you connected to the right speaker, the right mic?
I don't know.
All right.
I don't know.
Just one of those days, Greg?
I literally stepped in the door from the office and booted everything up, and here I am. So I don't even know if I'm here yet or not.
All right.
Yeah.
Welcome to the pre-show, Greg.
Yeah, welcome to the pre-show.
Yeah. Have you ever looked back at your taste in music or had your taste in music look back at you before? So let me tell you where I'm coming with this. So my mother has been cleaning out her boxes of albums. So for the kids out there, this would be an album where pictures are put in. Right? Yes. Pictures and stuff. Yeah. So I'm looking through this album, and it's very interesting. As I've told to you many times, I am not a big hockey fan, but lo and behold, I've got Borje Salming, Rick Vaive, Mike Palmateer, and Dan Daoust signature cards in my album. And I've got some other stuff, but specific to music, Greg, here's who Karim was listening to. I don't know what year this is. 1983. Police sex symbol turned actor, Sting, was in Karim's album.
Were you like 4 then?
Remember that? George Bell. When he became MVP. Sugar Ray Leonard. I was a huge boxing fan, Greg. A huge boxing fan. What else? Let me show you this picture first. Wrestling fan. And Greg, I went to see her in concert at Kingswood Music Theatre at Canada's Wonderland. Tiffany.
Wow.
Tiffany. And then to end it all off, the king of pop, Michael Jackson.
Look at you.
Is in my album. So if you're listening to this on audio, go check out our YouTube page. And you can see this podcast and these photos that I've shared. Just go to welcometothemusic.com and click on the YouTube icon. And you can see our podcast in video format, all edited by Dynalone Records' own Greg Tilston.
There you go. Wow. That's a riveting pre-show.
And that's the pre-show.
That was a riveting pre-show.
Well, thanks for coming prepared, Greg, to contribute.
Hi, the following podcast is brought to you by Radical Road Brewery, the best craft beer in the heart of Leslieville. Find them at 1177 Queen Street East. That's Radical Road Brewery.
Hi there, I'm Barney Bentall, and I'm talking to you from the west coast of Canada, and I'm with Karim and Greg, and we're here talking about my new record, my new release called Cosmic Dreamer on True North Records. Very excited about the record, which after doing this for 30 some odd years, that's a good sign, I suppose. And you are watching Welcome to the Music.
Thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you. You're very welcome.
Yeah. I'm guessing you're in the West Coast today.
Yes.
Always.
Like, can you kind of tell the gray tinge of a misty, rainy day out there?
It looks. You seem to have sun shining on you.
Well, that's good. Maybe there's just nice light coming in here, but it's pretty gray and misty. But
okay.
But, yeah. Where are you guys?
Toronto.
Yeah.
So it's gray. It's gray today, and tomorrow, apparently, we're getting hit with ice and
freezing.
Oh, really?
And ice and,
freezing. Yeah. Welcome to Canada, as they say.
Yeah. So when will you guys go back to the bar? for doing the show?
We've got to figure that out because things are opening up. It's some guests might be open to it, some might not. It has opened up our ability to, meet with and talk with people like yourself who aren't necessarily in Toronto. So Zoom certainly helped that way. Yet the bar is a great place because of the ambiance. Like it's literally like a little local in Leslieville, and it fills in. So when we're talking, I remember with Bedini, and you could just hear the crowd in the background, or not the crowd, but the noise in the background. You know what I mean? So I don't know. We've got to figure that out. We have to work with the bar. They've changed their business model, and like many restaurants have, and are becoming sort of marketplaces as much as they are restaurants. Yeah. Right. So anyway, hopefully soon. Knock on wood. Hopefully soon we're back at Radical Road and recording from there.
Yeah. It's been a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely.
But the other thing too is, there is that element of, even in terms of press, for instance, like it's a lot easier to do some of these things because that's become the norm, than if you're in a city and you're going from one place to another and trying to do it and interspersed between dates. Yeah. So there is some of those silver linings, I guess.
Yeah. No, it's for sure. Yeah. It's facilitated for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've interviewed people, like yourself, different provinces, different time zones, different countries. Yeah. Because now, we're at home and doing this. So let's see if somebody wants to hop on hop online and take care of this. But so similar to, you may have, I know a lot of artists, a year or year and a half ago, were starting to look at, do I start performing online? And, there's something to be said about in person, of course.
Oh yeah. Yeah. there were funny moments. I remember where, in the early days, I remember like playing a show right in this room where I'm sitting, and
wow.
And it was in Edmonton, and people were in cars and they would honk after the song, and at 7:30 you were done and you were making a martini at home. There was positive aspects of it, but it just ultimately it sort of is it fails on a lot of levels. In my opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I saw on I think it was on your Instagram. It might have been on your website. In February, there was a South Country Fair. Did you perform there, or?
Where was that? What was that?
Was it in February, or am I thinking February of last year? Was it that old of a post? I thought it might have been recently. Have you performed recently live?
I'm trying to think. I have done some things of late. Yeah. Okay. And I've got a bunch of things coming up in about a week or 10 days. But it seems to me I did some things in December.
Okay.
And I did one thing in January, but what was it? South Country Fair. It rings a bell. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
It's a blur. It's COVID.
It's a blur.
One day rolls into the other. 1 month rolls into the next.
I've been fixing a lot of things around my house and my farm. I've been doing that too.
Yeah.
I do. I'm a person who keeps myself busy, so
that's good.
I work, been productive musically speaking. There's Cosmic Dreamer, and then the instrumental record I did with Jeffrey Kelly from Spirit of the West. It's been productive in that way, largely because, I haven't been touring, and I've been, did a lot of things that needed doing at my house, my farm. So, I've been just kept very busy, but all of a sudden we got lucky. We did a lot of shows in the fall, like October and November, and then wham, it closed down again. So,
yeah.
What was it like getting back out in front of people after some time away?
Well, you know what? It wasn't as if it completely shut down. I did a lot of solo shows, even when it was like you'd have these sold out shows of 50 people and you do 6 nights somewhere. I loved it. Like I would go to a theater and kind of set up a residency, and it was only 50 people, but you had you knew that you'd sold the thing out.
Sure.
And so I kept there was all those things happening that when there'd be a little bit of an opening or reduced capacity, that I didn't feel like I had sort of a year long hiatus.
Okay.
Or 2 year. And then in the meantime, just making lots of music too. So
Oh, that's great. So Cosmic Dreamer was one album that you made. That's the one that's coming out soon.
yeah.
And then you had the instrumental album. Both of those were made during the past couple of years?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. I know Gregg had some questions about that instrumental album that you made recently.
Fire away.
Yeah, Gregg?
I guess, the one thing I wanted to, before we get into that, I have to tell you this because we do put out to the listeners questions. Apparently, before I get into that, apparently you and I are quasi related through a mutual cousin.
Whoa.
Now she's the wacky cousin.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Who is it, or do we not divulge?
Sandy Hercombe. I don't know if you know Sandy Hercombe. She was from Calgary. She's now in the Manitoulin. She owns a coffee shop in the Manitoulin. You own a candy store. Karim's been to both places a couple of times.
Yeah.
And so apparently, but she's the weird one. So neither of us, we don't even admit it.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Family secrets, Gregg. Way to go. Way to start off.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. In terms of like, the music described, is it that album that was like instrumental cinematic Canadiana? Is that, or am I thinking of the?
Yeah, that would be a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. I read that. I thought that was a really interesting descriptor of it.
You should listen. You should listen to it. It's one of the things I'm most proud of. It's the perfect thing for Saturday morning or Sunday morning. Get up and put it on. I find it, a lot of my family members, they listen to that more than any other thing that I've done, because it just kind of, words are sometimes challenging, especially if you know the songwriter, then you're kind of like, what's that about? What was happening there? But the instrumental thing, it's just beautiful. And of course, Jeffrey, and we did it in honor of John Mann, who passed away way too early. So that's it. That was a great project.
That's great. And I know you've known John for many years. In fact, you had an album, or you had a song, The Ocean and You, about John. Am I correct with that statement?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's
and can you talk about how the two of you connected and going back? And
it goes back 40 years basically, or not quite 35 years or something like that. But we were just friends right out of, and we started doing music together, and then later on, our Jeffrey's wife and my wife were in theater school with John, and it's just like we always hung out. And then they didn't have a band at that point. I did, and then at a certain point, they started putting a band together, and I produced Spirit of the West's first record. So there's a lot of history.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's great.
So we have a question here from a friend of ours, Jennifer Johnson. She would love to know about your friendship and working relationship with Sherry Ulrich.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. She's curious about if you guys knew each other before you moved to Is it Bowen Island?
Yeah, we both. Yeah. I just saw Sherry yesterday.
All right.
Borrowing some gear from her. She's just a tremendous musician. Just, she's like a sister to me too. we did some songwriter things, back around, 2005. I'd always known her, an acquaintance, but I did some songwriting things, and we just really connected on a deeper level then. And we started, that's when we put together our kind of group that we occasionally play, BTU, which is Bentall, Tom Taylor from the great band She Stole My Beer from a long time ago. He's the principal songwriter. So Tom and Sherry and I we usually play once, do a little tour once a year. It's so great. I mean, phenomenal harmonies in that band. And so, yeah, I just have a great deal of respect for Sherry. She's a good friend.
Nice. So let's get to Cosmic Dreamer.
Sure.
Both the album as well as the song that has already been released. Very beautiful video as well to accompany that, by the way. Yeah, very, very interesting. And you talk about, I'm curious if that album is a direct result. I know there's many themes in that album, many topics that you sing about, but is that a direct result of sort of the times that we've been going through the past couple of years? Because it's a very, I think you describe it, or it has been described as a very melancholic album, a very somber album. So, your thoughts on that and where it fits as well in terms of your whole catalog.
Yeah, it's a bit different in terms of my whole catalog. There's not a lot of drums on it, and it is a bit melancholic, I guess. One of these days I'm going to sit down. I'm just going to write a fun, happy rockin' record. I'm going to do that one of these days. It'll be fun. But I started it right before I was taking a course. I go as a staff member up to the Arctic. With Adventure Canada, and I have to drive Zodiac and do other things there. So I was taking a course to certify. That was February of when, right before the pandemic started. So I was over on Vancouver Island taking this course, and I just started working on that song at nighttime. And then where I was taking it on the course on Vancouver Island, good friend as a studio, amazing musician, we went over and we recorded Cosmic Dreamer, basically played it about 3 times. That was it. So that started the record. That got me thinking, I want to make a record that's going to set the tone. But at that time, there was only talk about, the threat of a virus. So it was, and then I came back from the course and I was getting ready to head to the Junos. I was actually driving to the airport.
Oh, yeah.
And when everything got canceled, and it was wild. And I just remember, heading up to our farm, and some of our kids and their kids came up there. It was like a commune for a while. We just spent, I think, 75 days straight there. Like nobody knew what we could. That we were fortunate.
Yeah,
I always felt fortunate for me. Like I wasn't. I don't know your guys' circumstance, but I don't know if you were kind of confined to an apartment in Toronto or what the scoop was. But I had sort of bit of freedom of out of doors. But it was, yeah. That whole record. It's definitely impacted by what was happening in the world. Still is.
Nice. The song is sort of inspired by. Was it a postcard that your wife sent to you?
Yeah, it was just. Well, it was kind of almost a horoscope thing describing Pisces, which I am. Okay. And it was a beautiful picture. And really, I do feel that sometimes songs, and this might seem cliched, but sometimes, you write and you work at your craft and you're a songwriter, so you might as well get to it and write songs. But then there's also times where you feel like you do not know where this came from. And I think you work as a songwriter to get to those times because you can't force it. You can't control it. That's the beauty of it. But if you show up, then sometimes it happens. And that's what happened in that song. I have no idea where the fuck this is coming from, but I'm going to just ride it. That's the way that song came about. I don't even know to this day. I'm sort of intrigued by some of the lyrics. It's intriguing to me, but it speaks. And then from there to do that video with, my manager's daughter, she's retired now, but ballet from Winnipeg Ballet, and she and her friend choreographed. They had done this clip underneath a bridge in Toronto, and it was so moving to me. Then so I sort of said, why don't we do this, like a choreographed ballet piece in the beach near where I'm playing, and then on top of that, my dear friend Craig Northey from the Odds, and a big part of the Canadian music business. Craig, he was our guitar tech that's how he got in the business, and it's his son that filmed it, and so it's just a lot of really neat connections there.
Yeah.
Little bit of a sidebar there. I don't know if you go on Twitter, and there's Rave Drool, which is like 90s Canadiana account. And they have their March Madness bracket.
Yeah.
And so, they have one band names as one bracket, two band names, three band names. And then I can't remember what the fourth one is. Anyway, you brought up the Odds, and my heart broke the other day. And it was so like, it was like Sophie's Child. The choice you had to pick in that bracket was between Sloan and Odds. Oh, it was just like, oh. Anyway, so when you brought up Odds, it just reminded me of that.
Who ruled the day?
Sloan took that one.
C'est dommage.
Yeah. I think I selected Odds, knowing that I was trying to throw some support behind, but I don't know. I mean, and again, I love both. So
it's a cruel world out there, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
Greg had to do Sophie's Choice. There we go.
I know. Yeah.
Hearts are broken every day.
They are.
Hearts are broken.
Yeah.
Barney, you talk about, as a songwriter showing up. What does that mean?
Oh, I think just that, you got to work at your craft. I mean, we used to work really hard at songwriting, and it's not like I don't work hard at it when I'm doing it, but it's a different, it's kind of lost I don't feel like I'm going to have all of a sudden some major resurgence of my career or reinvent the wheel or anything. Like I don't feel, and I don't get the pressure that we had in the early days from the record company to create something, or that there's a whole band or structure that needs us to go and play. It's changed. So, there's not that same kind of urgency. But writing songs, like I just continue to write music and write songs.
Okay.
I know I've said it before. I have great respect for certain, I use Trooper as an example. I mean, they probably still play. I think they still play these days. I know a bunch of them. They're great guys. But if I was just going out and playing and just still playing the hits I had in the late 80s, early 90s, I probably wouldn't do this. It doesn't, I need to write, to make a record like Cosmic Dreamer. Like I feel like I'm not just rehashing what I did or what made me popular. And I also, I want to keep creating on that level. So that's probably what I mean by showing up. Like I keep writing songs. So then, you'll still, even after doing it for 40 years, maybe, I'll still get to this point where I go, whoa, that felt like something special. And that's all you can ask for, right?
Oh,
yeah,
that's very interesting.
It's interesting, and I want to sort of go to the next stage of that, which is, how has the recording and production changed as you're and back then you would have had to go into the studio and bang out that, and there was the pressure. What's it like for you now just to be able to have that flexibility? I mean, remember reading about, was it Jeff coming up to your place, and I think he came up to your place or you went to his or whatever and recorded? How has it changed? And I'm not just talking the pandemic, but I would like to know that, but also I
mean, it's changed hugely. I mean, the thing is, when we first got signed to Sony, part of it was just the absurd amount of money they would throw at you to make a record. But they were very careful to never, the last thing anybody wanted you to do is say, in hindsight, I should have gone, okay, this is great. We'll make a really good record, but I'm going to take $50,000 of this and put a down payment on a house. That was completely frowned upon. So you get these huge record budgets, and the idea is that a lot of lawyers, producers, everybody got paid except the band. The band had a subsistence wage. So it changed radically from that where, now everything's so incredibly portable. That's one thing. Whereas back then, the machinery was, you needed a studio by and large. It amazes me what you'd spend $250,000 on back then, and then what you can make for $20,000 now. And then if you look at Cosmic Dreamer, the only people that were ever in the room together was myself and the guy I made the record with, and then all the people that played on it. And then I recorded the drums in my place, so I know how to engineer all my life. So, there's all that stuff happening, or I would send stuff out to, I had Kendall Carson and plays with Alan Doyle and known for a long time on fiddle, and Matt Kelly, who's with City and Color. Like they did a bunch of stuff on the record. So I just send it to them and they'd record it and send it back. And it feels like we're all in the same room. Wow. So that changed radically, and there was kind of a cool freedom to that. And I was also so pleased with how that turned out. It didn't seem disjointed to me at all. But that's get good players in your court and just turn them loose, sort of thing, and give them the freedom. So yeah, it's changed a lot, and there's music is it's hard. There's a lot of great stuff happening, but it's also in a bit of a weird crisis to me as well, because it's getting so hard for musicians who don't have a reputation and can't play live to make a go of it. And then also the pandemic, I think, is knocking a lot of people out of the game. I think a lot of people are going, you know what, I'm done. Like I'll be a barista 2 or 3 days a week. They might be going, I'll be a barista 2 or 3 days a week so I can support my artistic drive and be a musician. But if I can't all of a sudden play, I might want to find some sort of viable career. So that's a bit tough. And then it also feels on streaming to me like the big power entities in music sort of are getting control again. So like there's they can maybe pay to promote certain artists, and then they get a lot of streams and stuff. It's tricky time. So.
Yeah, it's we've talked to a number of young artists and a number of people that are we talked to a whole mix of people. We talked to seasoned musicians like yourself, and we talked to young artists who end up going on like Ocon to win the international or the Juno international music. Yeah, is that right? And anyway, but what the pandemic has also seemed to hit from the perspective of in Toronto, well, not just in Toronto, everywhere. Real estate's going through the roof. So the areas that were going to be gentrified, that the artists were still in, are being gentrified. And like even moving out to Prince Edward County now is not a viable solution, because there are $500,000 to $1 million homes out there. And it's just, one of the discussions that we've had with a number of artists is, what's going to happen after COVID, and where are those artists going to be able to get together and foster whatever's next. I don't know.
Well, I was just out in Toronto and so who was saying, I said Toronto or Vancouver, but the last sort of rehearsal space like kind of shut down. Where do people even rehearse?
Yeah.
And it's true. Real estate is just, it's crazy. How do you I feel very lucky to have come up through this business when I did, even though back then I sort of did feel like it was easy to think it was a bit of a feudal system and you were getting ripped off by but it's funny to think, well, we had it really good. But what as far as income goes, it's playing live that You might get the occasional sync license and stuff but it's basically about playing live.
Yeah.
Has it always been about playing live?
You mean for income?
Yeah.
No. That's without getting too technical, say if I get a SOCAN award for 100,000 radio plays for one of my old songs. Well, back then that's a significant amount of plays, but it feeds your family. That song, from your royalties, as well as being able to go play out live, but the various royalty streams would give you a living, and you'd be able to support your family. Now, you'd have to have millions upon millions of streams to get that same sort of degree of income. So that whole system has profoundly changed. So what we're it really comes down to performing live and touring to make your living, and then of course that was largely removed. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fortunate. I'm fine. I've got lots of things on the go, and we're lucky to for people, it's getting in the housing market, for instance.
Oh, forget about it.
Yeah. So I'm very, very lucky in that way.
Yeah. You talk, Barney, about rehearsal spaces disappearing. We wanted to ask you. We have a segment here called Lost Venues. So we want to ask you. Is there a venue that you hold dear to? Maybe you got some memories there that you could share, but that it no longer exists. I'm wondering if there's one of those that you have.
Well, I'll do two.
Sure.
One was the Misty Moon in Halifax. I don't think it's not there anymore. It's my understanding, and it was just that was. I mean, it was the reason we would finish a tour in Halifax and be on stage at 3:30 or 4 at night, and then catch a 7 o'clock flight in the morning. And really, we would come home, by and large, a bag of shit the next day. But it was kind of grimy, and it just it had this magic, and it was like the bookend in the country from the Commodore Ballroom, which I completely love, and then the Misty Moon. But here's one. Okay, Spirit of the West had this song called the Crawl. It was like, we're good, oh boys, come from the North Shore, drinkers and carousers like you've never seen. And it would go from the troller to the Raven and all stops in between. That is about this pub crawl, and it was one of those showstoppers. And I just heard from Jeffrey that the Raven was right near where they live, and we did some gigs there in the early days. And everybody thought that would never close. It was such an institution. It was a pub, but then, somebody sold it and somebody bought it who really didn't give a care at all about the history of that. And it's turned into condos. And that kind of stuff happens everywhere. So those are the two I would say off the top of my head.
Nice.
But I know there's going to be lots of things. There's lots of things closing down now.
There are.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is, here in Toronto, for example, we thought we were losing the Hughes Room. And yet they just bought the place out on Broadview.
I drove by there the other day. I was out. I was doing a thing with Jim Cuddy, and we were driving by it. And he said, "Oh, this is where it's going to be. Yeah, that's going to be amazing."
It looks like a neat room it looks like a neat venue from the outside. So I imagine the inside's going to have a lot of character.
That's great. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
That's a bright spot.
Where is that one, Greg?
It's like Broadview. It's either just maybe it's just south of Gerrard or just north of Gerrard, but it's on Broadview. Yeah, it's like an old church on the west side. It's a white building, like a white church. It's a funky little building, and I'm so happy that they were able to do that.
That's a really great thing.
The city jumped in and helped out too with, I think, some loan guarantees and stuff. So it's nice to see.
Which they should.
Yep. I
mean, that level, the bigger theaters are gonna survive, but takes a long time. Talk about 20 feet from stardom. It's like the version that gets you to theaters. It's a big step.
Yeah.
So it needs all those things where, you know, people can incubate and right from the clubs, the clubs where you were kind of scared to go in the dressing rooms, to all that way up through the whole theater system.
Did you ever play Six High?
No.
Out in New Brunswick? When you mentioned Misty, I thought of Six High. It was in
where was it?
What is it, St. John or St. John's, New Brunswick? I always get them wrong.
It's St. John, New
St.
Brunswick.
John. So it's Six High, and it was I think it was Irving's money. And it was like an old 6-story bank building, and it was converted into a live venue. It was an amazing live venue. But to your point, I remember going up to the rooms that we were sleeping in the washrooms, and just like, oh my God, what are we doing here? What are we doing on the road? But hey, that's life.
Were you touring at the time?
Yeah. Back then we were with Vis-a-Vis and the Hip through Jake and Alan Gregg's management company. Yeah. So,
good for you.
Yeah.
Well,
it was fun.
That makes
Worst times, best times.
What about you, Karim?
No. I'm just here for the ride. I'm one of those guys that remember, you know, growing up in Toronto, we had a top 40 radio station, which is where I believe I got, because it was either listening to radio on CFTR, 680, which is now an all news station, or it was Q107, to listen to classic rock. So one of those two stations is how I got introduced to this album. Over here, and that's my claim to fame is listening to music, and then bumping into Gregg, you know, working in the tech industry. And then just talking about our love of going to live music and then just, you know, talking with musicians and just, you know, and enjoying the stories that come out of that.
Yeah.
But even though I've got a guitar up here, I can't play a lick.
You've also got a ukulele too.
Ukulele I can play. I can play half decent. The guitar I got because I thought, okay, I got all this time during COVID, let me learn, but I can't learn on a screen. I need to go to a teacher and have them teach me how to hold it, how to place my fingers on the string, and how to strum or pick. But you know, hopefully,
it's hard road later in life to learn an instrument. But but, you know, hey, we'll see.
Yeah.
It's all about appreciating music, you know?
Yeah, I think so. 100%. I think so. You talked about your farm. I had no clue until I started doing some research that besides music, you're like you said earlier, you're a busy person. You're a busy man. How long have you had your own ranch? Is this something that it's a family thing?
It's not a family thing. It's okay. I mean, it's in our family, but we've had it since it's getting close to about 28 years. We've had a place up there. And then for a while, in the 2000 to 2006, we bought the working cattle ranch in the area, which was I mean, the stories the tales I can spin from that are pretty entertaining, but I won't go there now. But we did run that for those 6 years, but it really took me out of music. It just was too busy. So now we have a quarter section. We grow some hay, have some animals, and I really like that. I love that part of life. So and that's where we made the Ranch Riders record. I mean, there's 2 Ranch Riders videos that are basically filmed up there. It's a really nice piece of paradise up there.
Nice. And it was interesting because recently you shared some photos of when you went up to the Arctic.
Oh yeah.
And then I realized after reading the last one that all these photos are from years ago.
Well, they're from a couple of years ago because we haven't been able to go for a couple of years. You know what, I thought it would be clear because I was doing it in the middle of winter, and it would be incredibly inhospitable in the middle of winter. And then somebody told me, because it was great, because that series of posts, I just did it because I was honored with becoming a fellow of the Canadian Geographic Society. But I did those posts, and somebody said to me, somebody stopped me in the street and said, "Are you back?" And I went, "No, I'm just always been here." And they go, and then that's when I realized, oh my goodness, I should have made that very clear. It seemed, but these are the kind of things I didn't know that people would, give it that much thought, but it was great. I just got such great feedback from those things.
Yeah. Awesome. Now, how does that happen? How does, I'm also learning that, you conduct tours as well up there for Adventure Canada, is it? Yeah.
Well, I'm just a staff member. Were you going to ask how that happens?
Yeah, how does one become a fellow?
Well, you have to get nominated. Those are two different things. But the Adventure Canada thing is to me, music has been an incredible passport. It's like I've been able to play hockey with Guy Lafleur and all this stuff. Like, I've been able to do all these charity games. I'm just an average smuck beer leg hockey player, but I've been able to have these, have played with Wayne Gretzky and do this stuff like in a charity format, So and then when I was asked to go up north as a musician in the Arctic and do the Northwest Passage, it's like, okay, sign me up. And I'm also, for those trips, for instance, like I'll play. I do concerts, a couple of concerts on the ship, but it's a really great organization. And the reality is you're working the whole time. You're a staff member. So that's never been a problem for me. So I drive Zodiac, and I'm also a bear guard when we're up north too. So and then play music as well. So they do look for people that, where you can multitask a bit. So for me, it's like when an opportunity like that comes up, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm all over that. And for the last 2 years, of course, we couldn't go up there into those communities. So we're going again in September. So maybe I'll do some more posts from there and say, I'm actually here.
You're actually here.
You're actually live.
Yeah.
It's funny because we had Roger Mooking on about a month ago or whatever. And he talked about how music allowed him to get into the food thing, and then the food thing back, having the success and then enabling him to have the freedom to do that. And I think of, a number of people that follow their passions, like George from Alexis on Fire, who's a firefighter, because that's what he loves to do. Right. Yeah. He loves Alexis on Fire. He tours all over the place still with them, but he loves doing that. And, as part of his life.
Is he an actual firefighter or a volunteer firefighter?
No. He works out in Oshawa for the fire department. In fact, he works with my ex brother-in-law, my son's uncle. Yeah. And I dropped into our family fun chat the other day, the new Alexis on Fire album. And my son Bry's like, yeah, I sort of had the inside scoop on that a few weeks ago.
It's funny because I play hockey with firefighters in North Shore, Vancouver, and West Van. And it occurred to me, that you could have had a musical career being a fireman.
Yeah.
And clearly he has. But because, you think, at this point I'd have a pension. And because I remember one time going in and they were saying to me, don't you ever work? Because, we're there playing on Thursday morning, having beers after. Don't you ever work? And I looked at them and I go, don't you guys ever work? There's freedom in your schedule, put it that way.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, that is neat. Barney, I believe you might have a song.
Oh, okay. I'll get it. Better grab a guitar here.
Yeah. Grab that. And we'll talk. We'll do an intro to it. Awesome.
See if we're in tune. Uh-oh. I don't even have a tuner. That's pretty good. Won't complain about that. What should I do? Oh, you know what I'll do? Because we've talked about Hugh's room. I put a Gordon Lightfoot song on this record called Shadows, and I went out, and this was again right before the pandemic started. I did these 3 nights at Hugh's room where it's a tribute to Gordon Lightfoot, and he comes down every night and watches us, falls asleep a bit, but and then gets up and would get up and sing with us, and it was so meaningful. And so I did this particular song because it's what I chose to do, and I love doing it so much that I put it on the record. It's called Shadows. See if I can remember it. Won't you reach out, love, and touch me, and let me hold you for a while? I've been all around this world, oh, how I long to see you smile. Where there's a shadow on the moon, and the waters here below do not shine the way they should. I love you just in case you didn't know. Let it go. Let it happen like it happened once before. It's a wicked wind and it chills me to the bone. And if you do not believe it, come and gaze on the shadow at your door. Won't you reach out, won't you lie down beside me, baby, run your fingers through my hands. I've been all around this town and still I do not understand. Is it me or is it you, or the shadow of a dream? Is it wrong to be in love? Could this be the finest love I've ever seen? Set it free. Let it happen like it happened once before. It's a wicked wind and it chills me to the bone. And if you do not believe it, come and gaze upon the shadow at your door. Won't you kiss me gently, darling, where the river runs away from the mountains and the hillside on a blue and windy day, where there is beauty all around and the shades of night grow deep. When the morning stars grow dim, they will find us in the shadows fast asleep. Let it go. Let it happen like it happened once before. It's a wicked wind and it chills me to the bone. And if you do not believe it, come and gaze upon the shadow at your door.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was great.
Oh, good. There's a few mistakes, but
yeah.
That was great.
That's what I love.
That was fantastic.
That was awesome. Thank you.
I want to ask you this question.
Yeah.
How old were you? How many years ago was this?
Oh, I don't know. I look at that and I go, why did I ever think I was getting older back then? Yeah. Look at that handsome young man. I think I was 33.
Wow.
Because I remember the record company lying about my age. I was like 32 or 33 and they said I was 29.
Oh.
And they were very careful. They were very careful to never mention that I had a wife and kids too.
Really?
Yeah. It was a different era.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What advice would you give 32-year-old Barney?
Oh, interesting. That's a really interesting question. Well, that would be one. It's just like, don't, really embrace where you are and be grateful for it, and probably believe in yourself a little bit more. And then follow my gut instinct a bit more. That's another one, because I think when I look back at that me in that photo, it's I mean, in some ways it's pretty remarkable what we did. We got a major label deal and we fought through so much stuff to get to there. And but I know I spent a lot of time making sure everybody was looked after in the band and all the people around me, and I probably would have just said, follow your direction a little bit more. That's probably what I'd say, and then it's a bit of a touchy area, but when I said they would never mention that I was married and I have kids, like I probably should have put my foot down to that. But it was an era where we thought we got to do what it's like we've got this major label deal, and you had to work hard, and this is the way it went, this is the way things are done, and you make mistakes, but at the end of the day, I feel we're still all intact here, so that's its own I mean, all that family is still together. I consider that probably a bigger victory than anything else.
Absolutely. Yeah, sage advice indeed. So I have one last question from a listener, and his name's David Bowie, and his name is actually David Bowie. Like, it's not like I grew up with the guy, so I know his name is David Bowie. So I don't know if that album or if it was before that album, but he wanted to know, he asked what it was like to work with Bob Rock.
Well, I knew Bob pretty well. That's an interesting question. And we did a demo for Something to Live For with Bob Rock, and it was quite different. And, I was in that milieu, but I was working with Bob and I was being managed by Bruce Allen. But they wanted me to get rid of my band, which were the legendary Hearts, and kind of go in their direction, go into their camp and get musicians to surround me, or musicians they felt were of a better quality. And you know what? I couldn't do that. We'd been through the trenches together. So, I mean, whenever I see Bob, we're very friendly. And of course, he went on to such incredible success.
Yeah. But
I had to part ways with that milieu, or the old Bruce Allen, Bob Rock thing, because I couldn't turn my back on my friends. So,
well, thank you for sharing that. That was very honest. So thank you.
That's not a story I share very often, but I'm very comfortable with it because, at the end of the day, I'm really glad I made that move, and then I ended up being managed out of Toronto. Bernie Finkelstein had a great relationship with him, and everybody in the West Coast, I think, was a little pissed off at that time that they
sold it and moved to Toronto.
Yeah. We never moved, but my God, it's almost like we lived there. We were there all the time. But
yeah. So one of the questions I like to ask before we wrap it up is, what's in your earbuds lately? What are you listening to that people should be checking out?
Oh, geez, it's pretty. It's pretty varied. I listen to a lot of kind of Irish Celtic music that I get through Jeffrey. Mm-hmm. As far as new people, I just started. I was listening to this guy Doug Seeger, a little old school guy that I managed to get a record deal somehow. I listen to a lot of classical music. Sometimes I don't listen to a lot of singer-songwriters per se, which might seem really pathetic, but I get enough of it out of my own head that I just,
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Barney, thank you so much for this. This has been really fun, really great.
Yeah, likewise, you guys. It's been great chatting with you, and it's been a pleasure.